Welcome back to Never on the Back Foot podcast. Again, I'm hoping the smile, kind of stays through the rest of our session as well because we are reviewing the first test between England and India. I think while making the thumbnail for this specific episode too, it was really hard because India did play some really good quality cricket for at least a good part of the test, and suddenly we find ourselves on the wrong side of the result. As usual, I have Naman and Hari Prasad joining us to, kind of just put all of these, pointers and just what transpired in that match into perspective. So, without further ado, let me probably start off with Naman on this one. Like your first thoughts on the game at large must have been a really tough pill to swallow, considering we had come up with some very lofty predictions of where the series was headed, but definitely not the start India would have wanted.
Undoubtedly, it was not the ideal start for us, especially with all the murmurs about the transition, how are things going to settle in. So it was not an ideal start for the captain, for this entire captain coach duo, to be fair as well. And the biggest surprise for me there being that it actually went the other way. I mean, not absolutely surprising, but it was amazing to see that our batting really stood up. Although the bowling also was not as potent as one would expect from an England attack, but our batting really stood up. The fact that it was the first time that we have those five centuries being scored by an Indian team in an innings. So all those record-breaking batting performances were there to be seen. However, just the way things unraveled over the course of the 5 days, I mean, we must say that eventually England did play better cricket, marginally better cricket than us, I would say, and they more than them deserving to win. Probably, we deserve to lose the way things unraveled, especially on day 4 and day 5. That's why I would like to put things into perspective. And yeah, it just sends the entire thing tanking in for a toss. And how would they go about things now? They have a week to 10 days to figure things out. So, but again, not the ideal start to the series, and definitely a lot more problems to be solved moving ahead.
Yeah, definitely valid points there. And I think through the course of our discussion, we will be looking at that too. And Hari Prasad, over to you. I mean, again, your thoughts on the game. And I'll quickly just add a stat here that India became the first team to, lose a test match with five individual batters scoring centuries. I mean, what do you make of this stat in the context of India losing the game, right? It just felt like, again, something very shocking and unexpected.
Despite the fact that two greats of the team, like Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma, retired from the format, it was no shocker that despite that, our batting was much stronger than the bowling. As only because of the fact that the bowling and display during the Border Gavaskar Trophy was not up to the mark. So going into the Test series, it was a fact that basically our bowling is not up to the mark as compared to the batting, and it was shown in the first Test as well, having 500s, two of them coming from Pant, one from Jasprit, KL, and the captain Gill, of course. But yeah, I mean, just shows that focusing on just one part of the game is not enough. I mean, just the batting clicking is does not win you games. I mean, you gotta bowl your lines and lengths properly, ensure you take your catches, and strategize much better as well. Uh, Catches win matches. That's a really true statement. I mean, as we saw, there were a lot of drop catches in the game as well, and that's not acceptable. I mean, when you're chasing when you're defending a target or any point of the game, since it being a test match, I mean, it's not acceptable that you drop these many catches. Not gonna pick names, but almost everyone like kept dropping catches, and that's not acceptable at all. So the batting was well, but and kudos to the guys who scored the five centuries, but that wasn't enough only because the other two departments let us down.
I mean, again, that's some very valid points you bring in, Hari Prasad. Like, even the fact that in our comments, we're getting a lot of, in our live chat, we're getting a lot of comments, talking about catches win matches, how the fielding was not up to the mark. But let me take this question actually. I thought I'll probably save it for later. But Ujjwal goes on to add that Modi Mogul should be questioned. He hasn't contributed anything to the Indian, fast bowling, neither to Pakistan's pace bowling in that specific stint. So now let me direct this one to you, because one very common, I wouldn't call it a meme particularly, but observation was, the kind of work that Bharat Arun had done back in the day, in that whole Kohli Shastri era to now, how things are with respect to our pace bowling department. Like, what have you made of, the kind of not so great performances and that over dependence on Bumrah being such a big talking point?
So, first of all, like about Bharat Arun, of course, he had a massive influence on our his bowling renaissance, let's say back then. The way things started off from 2018 to 2021, Kohli, Shastri, Arun, that entire era, it was priceless. I mean, so obviously the benchmark was set very high to be matched. And one more thing, if we were to observe back then, what was our pace attack primarily like? We had Ishant, who was the most experienced. He was the leader back then. We had Shami, we had Mesh. These were the top three. And then, Bumrah settled in. Bhuvi kept coming in and out because of his injury concerns. And a few other guys that just played a few. And basically, these 4 to 5 other main guys who were leading our pace attack back then. Now, among these, out of these 4 or 5, how many played white ball cricket regularly? That's the first question to be asked. How many of them were premier bowlers for their franchise in IPL, or how many of them were actually the first pick for us in white ball cricket back then? Umesh Yadav, in and out after the 2015 World Cup 16, didn't play very regularly. Even in the IPL, although he was among the first two pacers, but not the main ace bowler. So not a lot of white ball cricket. With Mohammad Shami, he also had his bout with injuries, but even in white ball cricket in the ODI setup, he kept going in and out. In T20, he never really settled in. In the IPL, he's had a roller coaster of a ride, we can say. Same with Ishant as well. Over a period of time, he just completely went out of the picture for the white ball setup for India, and even it's fair to say for the IPL as well. So those bowlers were primarily focusing mostly on red ball cricket for their Indian stints. Whenever they played in the international colours, they were primarily playing in the red ball cricket. So that, of course, is something which makes them much more in sync to bowl the red ball, to bowl those longer spells. Whereas the current crop of bowlers that we are seeing at this point of time, if we talk about, well, Bumrah, of course, he needs to be managed. So let's there's no point of bringing his discussion over here. If you look at a Prasidh Krishna, he's been involved in the IPL for a pretty long time. He's had his bout with injuries as well, and even the others. Shardul, he keeps playing white ball, keeps going, keeps playing, keeps going. So that's what we've seen. So those players, that fast bowling crop had a lot of time with Bharat Arun, and he really trained them well to bowl with red ball in that at that period of time. And let's note, back then, even when they played the white ball games, their returns are probably not the best. We've seen how Shami's returns have improved since 2022 onwards. So maybe maybe Bharat Arun's style of coaching was such that he primarily focused on them doing much more with the red ball. Although he did well in ODIs too. But then again, coming back to Morne Mokul, just given all that background to set the context in place, here Morne Mokul has probably been around for 6 months or so. He's been able to spend a very little amount of time with the crop of bowlers. So I think it would be very premature to make a comment that he's not contributed anything whatsoever. I think let's give it some more time to settle in before we make a comment on whether he's added any value to this attack or not, whether he's been able to groom the bowlers over here or not. So that's one thing. And then second, of course, this also matters that the current set of bowlers are playing the other formats very regularly. So what is their workload? What is their skill level? What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? Are they adept in the conditions in which they are playing? That is a very important question that we need to answer over here. Just the other day we were discussing on the group that Shami is somebody who relies more upon the seam movement. He really needs to hit the deck hard rather than bowling it up full to let the ball get the movement. So he's got the success in conditions like Australia and South Africa, and of course in India. But when we talk about England, you need to pitch the ball further up. You really need to give it the air to swing, and then you let it do the talking. We saw what happened with PK the other day as well, and we'll probably discuss that in length later on. So picking the right set of bowlers in the right conditions is very important. And of course, the skills come into the picture and how you're grooming them comes into the picture over there. But to answer the question, again, being blunt, I think let's wait out till the end of the series to really make a verdict on whether Morne has been contributing anything or not. it would be too harsh to say that at this point of time.
Fair enough, Naman. I think that's where we, as fans, really need to be patient and give Moni Mokul the time to, kind of work with this newer group of pacers. But there's another very interesting question that I did want to take from our live chat, which I'll probably direct to Hari Prasad, about how good are Stokes and McCallum in terms of clarity to the members of the team. Because this is what day one of the very first test. England is absolutely getting, smashed all around the park. Yet, you could see a very calm head on Ben Stokes. Mind he just didn't seem that rattled, and he was able to, get his job done. And he was bowling really well. You also have the likes of, getting the best out of Josh Tongue. Brian Cast is blowing hot and cold. But again, your thoughts on how Stokes and McCallum have just, managed to marshal their troops so wonderfully?
I think when McCallum first got into the setup in 2022, he had a set philosophy, and that was to play aggressive cricket, and that's something that they've stuck ever since he's come in. He's picked the right set of players, removed players like Sam Curran and probably Johnny Bairstow as well from the setup. Even Butler was removed because probably not did not fit his philosophy that back then, and he's also identified those players who haven't really had a good first class statistics, like probably a Jacob Bethel or someone who was given a debut in the New Zealand series, and he made a mark at three right away and probably scored like two of those important runs. And to put things into perspective, Jacob Bethel has never scored a first class 100 yet. Despite that, he's been selected into the squad just because he fits the ideologies that Ben Stokes and Brendan McCullum has, and that's good. I mean, just backing your players, finding the right players for their philosophy, and despite the fact that they do not have those stats, I think is a good thing. And to talk about and if you remember, England's conundrum with the openers have been an issue because ever since even while Cook was there, they had a lot of openers trying to play alongside Cook. There was a Mark Stoneman, there was a Nick Compton, there was an Adam Lyth, and Hasib Hamid as well. The list goes on and on in that manner. So after Cook retired, I think Keaton Jennings as well. Not gonna miss him out. And so therefore, I think when Baz came, even before Baz actually, we had and after Cook retired, we had Rory Burns, Dom Sibley, and Zak Crawley as well, opening here and there. Although he played a lot at three, but then he was opening here and there as well. But Burns and Sibley weren't just up to the mark. I mean, slow starts and stuff like that, and inconsistency, especially during that horrendous Ashes down under, uh, did not really help them, and that's when they decided to sack Silverwood and they got in McCullum to replace him. And even though Crawley was looking all sorts of out of form, they stuck with him and brought in Ben Duckett as well, who had already made his debut back in 2016, but did not get consistent performances. I mean, chances after that. And despite that, I think he had been brought into the setup, made to open with Crawley. Uh, Ollie Pope was bumped to the number three spot, made the vice captain of the side as well. And even though he was pretty inconsistent, but he came back strong. I think in this series and the one-off test against Zimbabwe as well, scoring 200s in these two games. I think he's shown that why he's the vice captain of the side. If you remember, we were discussing about how Pope needs to step up being the vice captain of the side, and I think from the way he played, he's probably made some adjustment in his techniques and batting techniques, and it was clearly shown with that 100 that he scored. So this basically shows that Stokes and McCullum has a sort of clarity for each player out there, and they've probably given the license to Harry Brook, like just go about, play your shots, play at that high strike rate as you always do, and he's delivering as well. And Joe Root, we're seeing a different Joe Root as we discussed earlier as well, playing those reverse scoops and probably playing at a higher strike rate. So looking at that, I think there's a set. Clear role for each player out there, and it's just showing out. And even the wicketkeeper conundrum was a problem. I mean, Josh Butler was there for a while, Johnny Bairstow was there for a while, and I mean, we've discussed all these before, but bringing that into limelight just because the fact that we're talking about these two, Stokes and McCullum, just shows that I mean, they've found the right players, and despite there were, I mean, Sam Curran was a 2018 Man of the Series in the against India, and despite that, he's been left out of the side, and just shows that even though you might be a great player or you might perform, but if you don't fit my philosophy, you just don't have place in my team. And players are in and out because of that. The ones that have consistently probably been performing for England, but just do not fit that ideology that these two have, and they've been removed from the side. And that just shows that, and the results are probably might follow, and we already saw that they already won the first test against India. So clear roles for each and every player, and bringing in those players who have the potential to fit in this philosophy is something that these two have done really well, and probably continue for the coming days.
Yeah, I mean, as questionable as the Bazball philosophy is something we were also discussing in our previous discussion, as much as there is so much discourse about it on social media, there is some positive influence, right, that is rubbed off on these players to, kind of give them that license to just go all out. So let's see how that progresses through the rest of the series. But at least to get that first one under the belt is something quite commendable. Actually, a lot of interesting questions coming through the live chat. Probably let me take this one from Devang. He goes on to ask us, what about the pitch? Again, we just saw so many pictures floating around, a green top, but it just ended up being such a flat deck with batters going berserk, right? Getting those runs in loads, right? So, Naman, let me start off with you on this one about your thoughts in general about the pitch. Does a pitch like this help Test cricket, make it more interesting, more batting friendly, just offering nothing to the bowlers? Or was there something for the bowlers that they could take from the surface but just couldn't?
Honestly, the pitch was uh, exactly in the line of how you would expect them to prepare the decks for the kind of approach they want to follow. So I was not too surprised. Obviously, ahead of the start of the play, 2 days in 3 days ahead, you would see pictures emerging. How much grass is there? What can be expected? What will be the combination? All those rumors and murmurs will keep going on. But this was more or less on the lines of what we would have expected, because it suits their batting. They know that they probably do not have as potent of a bowling attack as they once did. They probably know they do not have the likes of Broad and Anderson who would swing the ball, seam the ball where it can, and pick up those wickets. They have the mindset of being able to chase whatever they the target has been posted by the opposition. The way things look like, even yesterday, Harsha and DK were discussing on Quick Buzz. They've given their bowlers the license. You go, how much ever you concede, we are going to chase it down. Just pick up, go ahead. Don't feel bothered at all. Go for the wickets. That's their mindset. Their bowling mindset is not to curve runs. Their bowling mindset is to pick wickets and chase whatever runs they might leak out in the process. That's one. Now the pitch, coming back to exactly the nature, what we saw over here, of course, it was a great deck for batting. The ball swung around a bit depending on the weather conditions overhead and depending on the moisture that was left out after the rain. It swung a bit decently, and especially the turn. We saw some turn coming in from day three itself. So that was an indication that okay, this is not just a highway. It is a pitch where you can extract some save movement. You really can extract some spin as well. And we saw eventually, when towards the day three and day four, Bashir got a few to turn. Then we saw Jadeja when he was actually targeting the rough, he got a few to turn as well. So the rough would obviously give that turn, but even without the rough, the ball did have some sort of a turn. And all in all, I don't really think it was an absolute highway of a pitch where you can score maybe 500 runs in a day. Those are the things that you probably observed in the Test series back in Pakistan in 2022. It was not that kind of a wicket. It had something for the bowlers as long as they were pitching it in the right lengths, in the right lines. And we saw those who did that, they got the rewards for it as well. In the first innings, we saw Bumrah getting those returns. We saw so many times across the two innings where Siraj really pitched them at the perfect place, and he was very close to getting the wickets. He was a very unlucky bowler in this particular game. And the same goes for Prasidh Krishna. I mean, he was bowling short and short of good length. For what reason, I have no idea. The moment he pitched them full, he got some swing and he got those wickets. So the pitch had something on offer for everyone, but of course it was a batting friendly wicket, and maybe had selections been a bit different, which we can probably discuss later on, we could have seen probably at least 38 wickets falling in the game, if not 40.
Yeah, I mean, as you rightly said, we will bring it up later in our conversation. But again, just carry on the conversation about the pitch. Devang goes on to ask us about the middle and lower order Indian batting, right, which was pretty much in a disarray. A point that even Shubman Gill, in his I think conversation post match was discussing with the broadcasters there that our lower order batting just did not stand up, did not deliver with as much runs. So again, Hari Prasad, do you attribute a lot of this to the way the pitch was behaving, making it really difficult for the batters, who were coming in after the set batters to score some runs off the surface, or was it just like a lack of application entirely?
I think a lot of lot of it should go to the selection of the players as well for those positions. I think Gill at four did show that he is here to stay at number four, and Pant, we all know, I mean, how he plays, and I don't think there's a lot that's need to be said because he's been consistently performing at number five ever since he started playing there. So the less said, the better, because everyone knows how he is. But coming to number six, they chose Karun Nair this time, and I felt that was a blunder because much as I wanted Karun to play, but number six wasn't exactly his position. Even when he scored that truckload of runs back in the Ranji Trophy and in the India I games, he was playing in the middle order. I mean, he was playing at four or five, and number six was just not his position. I mean, it's probably after you probably come in at number six when the second new ball has been taken, and that's not exactly his style. He's not been scoring at that position for long, and being a number six, you need to be able to bat with the tail as well, because there's a high chance that you might be the last recognized batter, and that basically shows that you need to be batting with the tail, something that Jurel has done well in the home test against England. Um and Karuna was just not that person because he's first of all he's under a lot of pressure coming into the tests after I think 8 years or 9 years, I'm not sure, but that's another added pressure on him as well, and it was clearly seen where he was dismissed for a duck in the first innings. So, having said that, I think a lot of responsibility is shown into Karun Nair in a position where he's not really used to. So, that basically shows that it was a wrong selection. And to come to the lower order as we go down, I think it's an issue that has been there for forever. I mean, because we know that the tail is not known to wag when it comes to Indian batting. They fall like a pack of cards. The only time where I've seen the tail wag was probably the last time we came here to England, and we saw that 38 over by Bumrah against Broad, were some of the examples. Shami with that 50 at Lords, and there were such instances where the bowlers were actually batting and keeping the scorecard ticking, and now we saw how it turned out in the first test, and we're probably back to square one over here. The lower order is not contributing enough. Shardul Thakur was another poor selection because he was supposed to be that batting the safety net at number eight, and he just did not step up. I mean, and like Naman mentioned, he's been in and out of the side and just bringing him out of nowhere. I know I wanted Thakur to bat there, but he was simply not up to the mark, and just showed that it was probably a bad call at the end of the day. And again, the bowlers, the out and out bowlers, do really need to probably bat a little out of the nets. I'm not sure if they are or not because I think it was clearly seen in the previous test series against England in England that the batter that the bowlers are probably batting it out there and trying to score those runs, and we saw the tail wagging like I mentioned. So it's just not seen this time around, and that's kind of unfortunate because we were going in the right direction for a while and we're probably regressing again. So I think it's a spot of concern because it's probably too late to change that, and the most you can do is probably pick those players who can actually like bat it out. Someone like a Kuldeep Yadav who can probably bat with the tail and bat with the number six. I'm sorry, and probably stitch a good partnership and frustrate the England bowlers. And we saw him do that in the home tests as well against England. And probably someone like an Akash Deep who can he hit that 31 if I'm not wrong, and in a quick time. I mean, you require those contributions from the bowlers as well whenever possible because we wanted, even in the second innings when we were batting, we had to probably declare and bat them out, like set a huge target of probably 400 or something, but that did not happen, and instead we were just bowled out for, I don't know, I mean, a 300-ish score. So having said that, I think it's probably required for the batters to probably whack the tail, but since it's too late for that, probably select the right players for that. And that is something that India will have to look forward to going into the next test at Birmingham.
And
So I
Naman, you
think,
wanted to add a point there, yeah?
yeah, and at the same time, see, there are two things when it comes for the tail to wag. First of all is of course skill and technique, and the second is the mindset with which you are walking in over there. Do you have the skill? Okay, that will follow suit. But what's your mindset? Are you going there to just whack the ball out, or are you actually going there to help the batter at the other end score some runs? The batter at the other end will probably do his best to farm the strike. But at the end, when you are getting to face those two or three balls in an over, what are you doing there? Is your mind resolute enough to actually hold on, or is your mind just going places? We saw what happened with Prasidh Krishna over there. Brook just teased him and he went for a whack at the next ball and he got out. That sort of a mindset that's teenage stuff over there. I mean, you don't expect your international batter to fall into those traps, especially when it's the last ball of the over. You just got to negotiate the ball, and you have Jadeja at the other end who will take it on from there. And Jadeja was starting to hit them. He was starting to go for those fours and sixes just in the previous over or an over or two ago. In those conditions, if the team's plan is probably said that okay, Jadeja will farm the strike, you just need to support him. You cannot be going around backing the ball in that case. If there were 2 wickets or 3 wickets in hand, okay, it might still make sense that you got a loosener. You try to go for it. Maybe just a risk reward thing because one ball will have your name written on it. But in that particular situation, it was absolutely bollocks for me, to be honest. Sorry for my language over there, but yeah. And other than that, of course, selection as Hari also highlighted, you can't pick your number 8 just as a safety net. Now, that's the conundrum that we've faced for a long time. You're probably picking Shardul to give you that cushion with the runs. But in return, maybe if you had a better wicket taking option over there, you could have conceded 50, 60 less runs rather than getting the 20 runs contribution from there. That's a conundrum that you need to understand. What's the style of the number 8 that you're looking for? Are you looking for a person to primarily take the wickets and maybe give some sort of a stability with the bat, just hang around with the batter at the other end? Maybe somebody like an Akashdeep can do it. Somebody like a Kuldeep can definitely do it. He has shown it in first class level. He even showed it in that one innings in Bangladesh when we went there for the test tour. He has got the batting ability in him. Obviously, he needs to be groomed a bit more for that particular role. Then somebody who's shown it in those conditions just a month ago, who could bowl pitches, get you the wickets, and hang around at the end as well in Anshul Kamboj. What do? You send him back home. I mean, it's absolutely nuts, man. You know the conditions you are in. Maybe you held on to Harshit Rana because he was around the squad for a long time. Okay, fair enough. It's okay. You want to keep him in the squad, groom him, good for him. But somebody who has really delivered, who can really solve a problem that you will definitely encounter going ahead into the series, you've got to be cognizant of that fact and probably have the right mix of players over there. And if you don't, then at least just go for the kill with the ball. Just in order to have some extra cushion with the bat, you ended up picking maybe 1.75 wicket taking pacers because Prasidh Krishna didn't look like he's going to take a wicket at all. Shardul Thakur didn't look like he's going to take a wicket at all, unless those one or two deliveries over there, which probably were just a release of luck. I'm sorry if I'm being too harsh on the bowlers. And 1.75 because we know Siraj can have those spells wherein he's just going haywire, which he started off with, but he came back really well. So if you're going in with that sort of a bowling attack, how do you plan on picking up those 20 wickets and winning the game against a batting lineup as England have? So that's where the bowling unit was just not potent enough to pick the wickets against that. I know the question was directed towards the batting of our lower order, but it's probably in similar lines because it probably ends up becoming a zero-sum game. If you want lower order contributions, probably because your bowling is not potent enough to get them out cheaply. If your bowling is potent enough, then you would focus on restricting 60 runs rather than scoring 20 more runs.
Just to
Yeah,
add in one more thing, we did see like players like NK are doing well at six, We have had Sarfraz playing well at six as well in the home tests, and despite that, we've gone for another number six in Karan Nair, who's not even like probably playing in that position back in domestic. So I don't understand the ideology behind that, because if you just want to give him based on the fact that he's making a comeback, then you'd rather play him in the right position. And I don't know, it was just a little bit confusing to me. I mean, probably play the players who already made a mark in that position rather than just playing whoever you want. I mean, there should be a there's a lack of clarity in that, and I hope that is cleared in the coming games.
Yeah, I think as fans, we can honestly just keep our fingers crossed that, as the series progresses, things, just start falling into place a lot more, because right now we can't do a lot with the selections. And as much as the bowlers and, the middle and lower middle order have caught criticism, let's also talk about Shubman Gill, right? I think Devang pretty much takes the cake with the sentiment here that the new Indian captain also missing aggression and that sort of a winning hunger as well. So let's start again with you, Hari Prasad. Like, what have you made of Shubman Gill the captain? I know the sample size is really small; it's just one test. We can't really make a deduction on the basis of this. But again, happy with what you've seen, or you still think there are areas that he needs to probably iron out?
Different formats, yes, I'm sure he's going to take time. But then, just with the fact that he's captain in the IPL, he was called as the template captain for a long time, where he followed a specific template throughout the games, whether it worked or not. And I don't know. I mean, that did not really work out a lot. I think Gujarat finished seventh or eighth in that year, although they came back strong, and there were a lot of changes in his captaincy this time. So I think he needs some time to probably settle in. It's just his first game, and he has the backing of the team as well. I mean, we did see KL making some changes in the playing 11 in the fourth. I mean, not playing 11, sorry, in the field changes in the fourth innings as well. So he's got the seniors who are there to back him. Maybe not KL himself doing it, because he probably needs Gill to take his own calls as well. I'm not sure what transpired in that time of play. Probably Gill was out of the field or something like that. I'm not sure. But if you have the other senior players taking over for you while you're present over there, making changes to your fields, then probably that's setting a bad precedent towards Gill, the captain, because he's probably I don't know, probably getting scared or something like that. And I hope in the coming days he probably changes that, because back in the Border Gavaskar Trophy as well, you saw Kohli making changes for Rohit when he had absolutely no clue in the field placements. So that is something that's not acceptable. At the end of the day, the captain has to be able to make the final call. Sure, take your suggestions from the leadership group, but final call rests with you as in the end of the day. So probably that's something Gill would have to change. If he was out of the field, then yes, I completely understand when if KL was taking the calls for him. But if he was there in that time, I probably think that does not set a right precedent for the new captain who's coming in. So early days, I'm sure he's going to like improve, as we saw in the IPL as well. They finished seventh in 2023, I guess. I think that's when Gill took over. No, four. Sorry, yeah, 24, and then they came back strong and finished fourth in 2025. So early days for Gill. I'm sure he's going to improve in the coming days. But yeah, these are the areas that he could work around as the next test comes in.
And Naman,
About
I'll
the
probably get your thoughts as well on Shubman Gill, the captain, and probably bring in this comment that, he spoke about getting those 20 wickets consistently, but this match was an eye opener. So, yeah, I can probably talk about your thoughts on Gill, the captain, and address this comment.
Yes. So first of all, about when Gill went off the field, even then, organically, naturally, the way things have been set, instead of KL, probably Pant should be the one firing the shots because he's the designated vice captain for the team. So even there, in a realistic scenario, probably KL should be in consultation with Pant and then Pant to take the calls, whatever are required. There's absolutely no problem in somebody like KL who's been experienced to offer his wisdom and to, just really even assert at certain points that this is probably what I really feel should be done. You should definitely consider it. Something of that sort. But at the end, if it's placing a fielder from this spot to that spot, that has probably that probably needs to be done by the captain himself. Now, I mean, of course, people would probably draw parallels that we've seen MS Dhoni do it so many times. We've seen MS Dhoni, even when Kohli was captain, Dhoni would set the fields. In IPL, when Gaikwad is the captain, Dhoni would set the fields. I mean, it's a very different dynamic there altogether. The wicket keeper actually has a great view of the game, and if the wicket keeper is doing it, then it's a different scenario. But if somebody who's a fielder just firing shots for a long period of time, one over here and there, one instant here and there is a different thing. I mean, that way you can also probably recall Rohit Sharma asking Bumrah to bowl that slower ball dipping Yorker to Sean Marsh before lunch. Now, even there, people can raise up questions and be like, why is he instructing? Isn't Kohli the captain? So, some inputs here and there is fine, but on the field, the captain has to own the field, which of course is going to come over a period of time. It is his first game as captain. It is his first series, a high profile series in these conditions with a bowling attack that was probably not as inspiring as he would hope, as everybody would hope. So things will grow organically. And that really brings me to the picking of 20 wickets consistently. I mean, they are targeting to pick 20 wickets, but I really don't think that bases the conditions. The bowling attack was potent enough to get you those 20 wickets because Jadeja, we've seen time and again in these English conditions, is probably his fourth tour of England. He was there in 18, he was there in 21, he's there right now, and he's probably there in 14 as well. He probably didn't play much in 14, but he was around the squad if I'm not wrong. Anyway, let's say this is his fourth tour over there. Third, sorry. That's a good enough sample space to know that he's not a wicket taker in those conditions, which we discussed in the previous when we were previewing the series as well. He is not a wicket taker. He's gonna bowl to make sure you do not get fined for over rates. He'll slip few quick overs. He'll try to control the flow of runs over there. You cannot really expect him to be your lead wicket taker. I really don't understand the trolls that are coming in on him, calling for his retirement at the end of the series. I mean, guys, chill. What are you saying? Next game he'll go score a 70 and help you, probably change the equation of the game, and you'll all be like Sir Jadeja performing in England and all those things. So let's calm down a bit on those sides. The real issue really came in, of course, like Shardul Thakur again. He blows hot. He blows cold. You can never really count on him through and through to get you wickets consistently. He will get you one out of the blue when you would not expect anything, like we saw uh, yesterday itself. Then even Prasid, I mean, he really, really, really needs to stick to a proper line. I once heard in the commentary, yeah, Ujjwal really brings out a very good point over here. So once when Prasid made his ODI debut back in 2021 against England, I heard a few commentators talking about him. I don't remember the names. That he is a bowler who likes to bowl his way, even if the captain would want him to bowl a certain way, the management would want him to bowl a certain way, he would still stick to what his plans are, what he feels is the right thing to do. And since then, he's always been the one who would bowl a bit back of a length and not really bowl it much fuller. He would really try to hit the deck over there and wouldn't really bowl as per the plans or as per the coach's wishes. And here in these conditions, of course, he was not willing to pitch it up at all. He kept bowling it short of length or at length or short, didn't bowl full deliveries. The moment he started pitching it up front, he got success. He got those wickets. The wickets that he got in the first innings also had more to do with the batter's error than really his potency and his wicket taking abilities. So, I mean, if he's really not going to adapt, if he's really not going to bowl as per the conditions required, then yeah, he'll probably not be the right bowler in these conditions. And of course, if you're not bowling as per the conditions, if you're not bowling the right set, this batting attack will tear you down. They are going to score those runs against you. I mean, we've seen bowlers like Bashir and Hartley going at 8 runs, 10 runs, and over back in India as well. Why do you think the English batters cannot do the same to our pacers over here? If you bowl, I'm just trying as much as I can to be not be very harsh on with regards to my language, but you really got to not bowl abysmally given the conditions. So I mean, again, having said all of that, I feel he has the potential to do well in this format, but he's got to work his mind out. I don't think he is probably in the right headspace at this point of time. He's had success in the IPL. He was a leading wicket taker over there. All good for him. But it's a different format, buddy. You cannot expect to have the same success in the same template over here. So And it didn't just show in his bowling; it showed in his batting as well. Both the ways he was probably not in the right headspace to be in this format in these conditions at this point of time. So a lot of conversations definitely need to be had with him, not just Mondi, even the coach, the head coach, and the captain as well. And Shubman and Prasid shared that relationship of captain and bowler in the IPL recently. So it should not be a very tough conversation to be had if it's required. I mean, if it's required to leave him out in the next game, which probably has to be a call that needs to be taken. And yeah, he needs to adapt. He needs to bowl as per the conditions and not just bowl what he feels is the right thing over there.
Yeah, no, in all fairness, I think the Indian think tank really needs to have a conversation, just go back to the drawing board and figure out where they want to, sort of figure out their playing 11 for the next match. Certain players fit in that scheme of things. But let's take this comment. We've spoken enough about the pace attack and how things didn't work out. But Padma goes on to ask us, have a proper spinner who can take wickets or contain. Also, bowlers should contain runs if they could not take wicket or 1 or 2 overs by part-timers. Let me direct this one to Hari Prasad actually, because Jadeja's place in the squad is obviously coming under this canon. So do you think someone like a Kuldeep can be your wicket taking option as well, someone who can contain the flow of runs, or would it be too soon to just make a change for the next test?
I think we've been calling for Kuldeep to play all the fighters from our previous live show as well. Yes, he probably should be there. And Naman and I were discussing this over our private chat as well. I mean, the way Ashwin and Jadeja worked back when they were playing their games is probably Jadeja to control the flow of runs and probably put a lot of pressure, and then Ash comes back in and takes those wickets. And also the way Kuldeep and Chal worked in limited overs as well, where Kuldeep would probably restrict the flow of runs and probably add more pressure, and Chal comes in and takes those wickets. Probably a spin duo of Kuldeep and Jadeja would probably work out in this case, where Jadeja probably controls it and like controls the run of flow of runs and probably puts some pressure, and Kuldeep comes in and takes those wickets because Kuldeep is capable of doing both, probably controlling those runs and probably taking those wickets as well. So they go hand in hand. I'm sure they would go hand in hand actually, and probably bringing in Kuldeep back would probably help. And yeah, I mean, part timers, yes, that's something we should be having actually. If I'm not wrong, I think Yashasvi bowls a little bit of part time as well, part time off spin. If I'm not wrong, he's done that quite a few times, I think. So because like in Australia, if you see, we've got Travis Head, Manus Lavishan, and Steve Smith as options for part timers who can actually come in and bowl some few overs here and there, and we saw Root also coming in and bowling those few overs, just to probably give your pacer some break or something like that. And but if you see in the Indian setup, there's only Jadeja who's bowling spin over here, and we don't have anyone else who's bowling any part time 1 or 2 overs. I mean, go back to the World Test Championship. Just to change ends, Markram was brought in, and he immediately delivered by picking the wicket of Steve Smith, who was going at a steady pace to probably take the game away from South Africa. And that's where you see like part timers might help you out actually. Even though they might give the Pacers a break in conditions like England, but probably get a wicket here and there because they're probably not prepared for such a bowler to come in and bowl to you. So having part timers, yes, I would actually encourage that, and only because of the fact that they could come out of nowhere and pick those wickets.
Just a few things to add over here. Bowling part timers against this lineup will be a big high risk, high reward strategy. I mean,
That is true
we
too.
probably want them to slip in a few overs, but they can really thrash you all over the park. Now, of course, in our batting lineup, we don't really have people who bowl. KL Rahul, I mean, again, we keep saying if you ask him to bowl, he'll probably bowl as well for you. But other than that, Jaiswal is the only one in our top five, top six who can roll his arm over. So if you actually want somebody as a part timer in your top six, then the only fix that you have in this current particular in these conditions is to bat Reddy at six and then play the two spinners Jadeja and Kuldeep at 7 and 8 and the three fast bowlers. Now that gives you a lot of degrees of freedom. if eventually, especially in conditions like England, I mean, you could have a situation where the overhead conditions just change drastically, but your main pacers have just had a spell. You probably don't want to play your spinner over there at that point of time because the ball is pretty new. So you can have your third pacer and Reddy bowling 4 or 5 overs from the other end. Whereas if the conditions change and you really are getting some turn of the deck, if there is a good amount of rough for somebody to target, then you can probably bowl spinners in tandem as well from the other end. So this gives you a lot of degrees of freedom. It gives you a batter who is probably more suited for number six, as Hari mentioned that Karun is probably more there for the top order at 3, 4, 5. Reddy, we saw what he did at 7 and 8 in Australia, and even recently at six, he's had success. So probably this should be tried out, and I was surprised that he was completely overlooked. I mean, obviously somebody had to sit out, but it's harsh on him. He did nothing wrong. He was probably one of our biggest pluses from that tour down under, and just keeping him out of the setup right away was probably not done. Especially given how we utilized Shardul Thakur with the ball in the first innings. If you just wanted somebody to bowl 4 overs in every 40 overs, you should have had Reddy over there. He has a lot more. I mean, in terms of line and length, he's more consistent than Shardul has shown so far. I have not been privileged enough to see his heroics in the domestic circuit. I'll be very honest over here. His record speaks something, but what I've seen has been pretty different. So if it again coming back to the balance, probably having those two spinners and the three seamers with Reddy as a six bowling option again is suited for these conditions and across conditions. I would say with regards to the batters, this should probably be potent enough to chip in a couple of overs whenever required, and it was going on back in the day, but right now if we start this discussion, we'll again go back to the impact where in IPL and how that's affecting things, and it will be a completely different tangent altogether. So yeah, we'll hold that and park it aside for another day.
No,
I
again,
think just to come
yeah.
back to that point as well, the impact player thought was on my mind as well, actually, Naman. But yeah, I'm not going to talk about that right now. But in the previous live chat that I mentioned, I did pick Shardul over Nitish only because of the fact that he can bowl. Like he's bowled a lot more than compared to what Nitish has bowled over the past few days. But if this was the case where you're just bowling him for like 5 or 6 overs or something like that per innings, then I'd rather have Reddy over Shardul over here. And it also fits in with Gambhir's ideology of having batting depth in the playing 11 as well. Because Nitish is the better batter over here, and he's gonna do exactly what Shardul did in the first test. So might as well have the better batter in that case. And if you really want to play a number 8 who can bat and can bowl a little bit of medium pace, then Reddy should be ahead of Shardul.
Yeah, I mean, the kind of points that both of you have brought in, really opens a Pandora's box, birth of talking points. But there was this one point that Ujjwal brought in where he said that it just felt that the tail became very casual in both the innings, thinking, we are far ahead in the game, which is, again, such a valid point. I think it's Sid Moga for ESPN Cricket for written, about how, say, the tail or Indian batting had this sort of a collapse. If it was under Rohit or Virat, the reaction would have been much different in the dressing room. And Shubman Gill keeps talking about, creating that sort of a secure team environment. But somewhere, there should be that fear of the leader. So not sure how that's going to, age well with the dressing room and all of that. But Shubman Gill, the captain, probably does need to, rethink certain strategies. And although through almost 48 minutes of our discussion, we've done a very scathing criticism of the Indian team. Let's talk about the few things that really did work out well, which would probably take me to India's first innings, right? Where we had three centurions. We had Yashasvi Jaiswal, shine out with a sparkling century. His celebration, just gave it all. You also had the likes of Shubman Gill scoring that 147. We had Rishabh Pant coming in with 134. Obviously, these were the biggest talking points, helped India reach 471. So, Naman, again, your thoughts on India's batting in that first innings? Again, largely dependent on these three knocks because the rest of the batters didn't really step up as much as you would have expected. So, yeah, again, your thoughts on that first innings for India?
Immense contributions by the batters over there really set the tone up for us for the rest of the game, and if you would have told anybody in India, anybody in that dressing room that this is going to be your total at the end of the first innings, everybody would take it. Nobody would say, even if you would offer 50 runs less, you would have probably taken it with both hands every Friday at 7 p.m. So that's the kind of performance we ended up having from these batters, the three centurions, of course. All of them played their all of them played in the fashion in which you would expect them. The threat posed by the English bowlers wasn't much, so they cashed in as much as they could have, and they got the returns that they did. At the same time, well, credit where it's due to KL Rahul as well for seeing out the new ball in the first session. He played on till the very end of the session, and then unfortunately just had one lapse of concentration, and then ended up gifting away his wicket over there. But then he made up for it in the second innings and made it count. So yeah, he was really good. And about Jaiswal again, like I think back when we were previewing the Border Gavaskar Trophy here with Anshul, we discussed that he's probably going to be one batter to watch out for us in Australia and then in England as well. So really glad that he started off on a positive note, and he's been showing it across conditions. I mean, we've seen him getting 100 in his first test in West Indies, here in England, back there in South Africa, in back there in Australia. In South Africa, it didn't turn out on the best note, but obviously that was a very uh, it was a, it was just getting started over there. Now is going to be the real challenge, and when he goes to New Zealand as well in those conditions where you can't spot the difference between the pitch and the grass, so it's going to be a delight to see how he goes over there. And I mean, what about Rishabh Pant, man? He is this is his best format, and he's just been back to his best ever since he's returned back from that horrific incident. And kudos to that guy's mental strength. Kudos to his ability, and kudos to just the way he keeps giving and giving in this format. There will be days where we will criticize him a lot. I will myself probably end up criticizing him that you probably not shouldn't have not done that in this situation. Uh, Maybe repeating the same word thrice to criticize him as well, like some of the other legends. But I think that's just the way it works for him. And we observed it in both the innings actually, that when in the first innings, probably a message came from the dressing room, is what we've been hearing all across, that he needed to just hold back and play, and that really didn't work out. And he ended up going to leave a straight one, and that hit his pads. But the real difference that really struck me for Pant was in the second innings, where he was really struggling. And the kind of chatter that he was having with himself during that spell of 5 to 7 overs, where he was trying too hard, he was struggling. But then the way he just managed to calm himself down and started getting those runs eventually, it was that really showed that the mental toughness, the resilience is probably just going on and on with him. And that is really something that you want to see with somebody like Pant. That okay, even if at times you probably need to curb your natural instinct, and it's not just curbing, it's also, he himself said it to himself कि कोई जरूरत नहीं है मारने की, आगे ऐसे मार लेंगे, ऐसा क्यों कर रहे हैं. So instead of a message coming from the outside, if he is himself capable enough to say that to his own mind, then you don't need any messenger coming in. You probably just need somebody like Shardul running in and not saying anything and then running back to the dressing room. That is what you require in such instances. So, I mean, with somebody like him, we've just got to accept that on days he will just, his bat will end up crossing the rope instead of the ball, and the ball will be hitting his stumps. So, probably come to terms with it, criticize when you have to, and just be in awe as we are right now. And then, of course, Gill. I mean, he's probably finally gonna find his home in Test cricket for India. And I'm not going to speak too much on him right now. I really want to see how he goes throughout the series. We discussed the other day, that can he really distinguish between his captaincy not taking over his mind while he's batting. So far, we've probably been able to see it in the first innings. Would have really liked for him to get a nice contribution in the second innings as well. But again, we have 8 more innings lined up. Let's see how he goes over there.
Absolutely. I think time will tell us, how the rest of the Indian batting sort of fares. Because I think in our conversation, we can come to this consensus that at least India's top order seems to be doing well. It's just the concerns with the middle order and the lower middle order. Probably our tail as well, just not standing up and delivering as much as we would expect them to. But Hariprasad, I'll probably direct this one to you about England's first innings, right? Again, it was a tale of two sides. They had Ollie Pope. I think Ujjwal also brought in a comment about Ollie Pope's much needed century under pressure. A lot of people are like, why Ollie Pope? Why not someone like a Jacob Bethel, coming in? But Ollie Pope really, silencing all his critics with that very important century. We had Harry Brook, also scored that 99. England just made what four? Not just they made 465, falling what 6 runs short of India's total in that first innings. How would you sort of assess how England fared in their first innings?
Ollie Pope 2.0, as I would like to call it. This is a completely different batter that we are watching. Away, like when you compare him to the previous games that he's played, he's made some adjustments in his techniques and probably his mindset as well, and it's clearly been shown. Having scored like a huge hundred back against Zimbabwe at Trent Bridge, and now coming in and scoring another hundred over here, I think he's made a lot of changes to his mindset and his technique, and it's clearly being shown over here. And kudos to him. He's finally stepping up as the vice captain of the side. Being entrusted with that is not a it's a huge responsibility for him, despite not being in the best of forms and not having like consistent performances. So looking at that, I think Ollie Pope is finally on the road to justify why he's been named the vice captain, and hopefully it just gets better for him when it like in the coming games as well. And to talk about the England batting, I think it was all right. I mean, they had contributions from everyone, almost everyone. I think apart from Zak Crawley falling in cheaply, I don't think anyone else did not contribute wherever possible, because they had those partnerships which kept frustrating India as well. And I think only Bumrah was the one who could like break through. As we know, he is capable of doing that. But apart from that, there were contributions from everyone. I mean, we had like the number nine Bryden Carr scoring a 22 of 23 as well. Um, I mean, this just shows that there are contributions from each from number one to number 11, and the tail wagging, like I mentioned before. I mean, that's something the other sides have been able to do, and this was just shown in the England innings as well. Even the number 10, Josh Tongue scored like 11 runs over there. Chris Woke scored a 38. I mean, I almost got those flashbacks of his century at Lords. Probably would do that again or something like that. But yeah, I mean, this just shows that they've picked the right players to probably perform their roles, as I mentioned before, and they've done that perfectly. At least with the batting, the first innings when they came out to bat, and all in all, I'm very impressed with the way England batted, and I mean went on to do that in the second innings as well, which I'll probably come into later on.
Yeah, I mean England would be quite pleased. I mean, might be pleased with that sort of a batting effort, because other than Bumrah, they just very much at ease to kind of get those runs and keep going all out. Again, just coming to India's second innings, probably the biggest talking point was that partnership, right, with KL Rahul and Rishabh Pant, which really set the tone. Probably gave a lot of us Indian fans that sort of a hope that, hey, we can probably aim for the stars and just ensure we end up setting a massive target for England. But that clearly wasn't the case. So, Naman, I'll probably get your thoughts on that partnership at large and just what went wrong for India after that. Again, we have spoken at length about the middle order not working well, the tail not just doing their thing. But do you think that partnership could have seen a lot more and that could have probably changed the course of the match?
This reminds me of that uh, the movie Chain Kuli Ki Main Kuli. Dil mange more, dil mange more, dil mange more. That's the kind of partnership they were having. Just keep going on and on, going on and on, going on and on. And it would have been a delight to see them back for longer. And the commentary panel was also finding some amazing metaphors to talk about them. I think DK was mentioning that it is hip hop and classical music at two other ends. They also recalled the comment that Sitaraman had made long back, that you need a Pant and a Pujara to drive the economy together. So all those metaphors are also coming in. So it was an amazing passage of play to watch, like KL initially soaking in all the pressure. And mind you, during that phase in the partnership, English bowlers were actually finding some swing. They were actually bowling well. They were causing troubles. The Dukes was also in the 20 to 40 over period, and it was showing some movement there. KL batted really well in that tricky phase. Even Pant, he missed a few, he edged a few, but he kept grinding it through, like we just spoke about a few minutes back. Then when the time came, they cashed in. KL, first of all, through his grit, he scored his way to the 100. And then when Pant started hitting, he just started hitting and kept hitting until he pulled out again towards the end. But would I love to see them bat more? Of course, it would have given our innings a lot more impetus. However, things didn't work out the way we probably hoped. And after that, I think it was just the march past that we dread all the time when we have a good partnership in the middle, and then a wicket falls, and then we are scared. Oh, now one will follow, then the other will follow. And there, maybe Karun just hung around for a while. Jadeja was there till the end, but then there was no supporting cast over there. Nobody to just hold on one end for 2-3 overs and let the other guy do the scoring. And that just ended up going that way. I think in both the innings, we lost some 13 wickets for less than 100 runs across the two innings in that sense, which is really not a good indication, which is something that we need to work it out, and hopefully it improves. And that is exactly where Hari mentioned about the English players, the lower order contributing. And I think even Ujjwal brought up Jamie Smith. I think even the other day when we were previewing, we mentioned that Jamie Smith's contribution over there down the order is going to be very crucial. How he ensures that we do not break past him to enter the tail or to enter the lower order like Vokes and Tongues and Carses and try to get them out. I mean, imagine if yesterday Jamie Smith came into bat when 70-75 odd runs were still required. In that situation, if we were to sniff him out as well, the complexion of game would have totally changed. But the way he batted with maturity, the way he just kept getting those runs, kept getting those boundaries whenever he could, and just seamlessly sail to close out the chase. It was superb. It was amazing. And I mean, seeing the next Butler or not, I mean, let's wait on. I feel Butler and Jamie are probably two very different players with regards to their techniques. Over a period of time, we'll unravel more of the technique. But yeah, in terms of the role, if you are to say, uh, what I can say for now is that he'll probably get more. Like Butler is not the most successful wicket keeper for England. Let's be very honest about that. So yeah, I mean the benchmark must be much higher than Butler for Jamie Smith in my opinion over there. With all due respect, he's a white ball legend for them, but yeah, in Test he's probably not his strongest format. And how much ever we've seen of him so far in these two innings, and even the knocks that he's played before these, I mean, it's probably a call a bit too early to make, but he'll probably emerge if 5 years, 10 years down the line as a better batter than somebody like a Brook as well. I won't be surprised if that happens. He really has the potential. Then it just comes down to the route in which the two head ahead, pun intended.
Yeah, just to add on a little bit about the next Butler in him that Ujjwal mentioned, I think Naman and I were just having a conversation back then where I told him that since the fact that Jamie Smith is being looked into the limited overs setup as well, I think he's been opening the innings along with Duckett over there. So either he goes the Butler way and probably gives like completely ignores tests and gets out of the squad, or he makes a legacy of his own actually and probably becoming an all format player. So like Raman said, would hold on to that thought and probably see in the 5-6 years that come forward, and hopefully he does create a legacy of his own and finally puts a full stop to the search for wicket keepers for England. And coming back to the Indian innings, I think I'm making a call over here. I think this is the best that I've ever seen KL Rahul bat in a test match. I think ever since the second inning started, the England bowlers, I don't know what struck them, but they were bowling much better than what they were bowling in the first innings. I think constantly attacking the stumps that they're known for, like the Bazball is known for, constantly attacking the stumps, making the batters guessing for, and we saw Jaswal getting out cheaply for 4 runs as well. But KL Rahul stood there, ensured that he does not that it does not get into his head to probably go for a rash shot or something, and he ensured that he would probably see the team through. And and he eventually got that 100 as well. I mean, it was a patient knock. Actually, a lot of people on Twitter were bashing that knock, saying that it was a very slow knock and he should have probably played at a faster pace. But let me tell you this: if not for this knock, we would have probably been having this live show yesterday instead of today, because the game would have been over much faster. So, having said that, I think this was the best I've ever seen KL play in a test match, and all kudos to him. Honestly speaking, if India would have won the game, despite the twin hundreds that Pant had, I would have probably given the player of the match to KL Rahul only for that knock. And obviously, the first innings as well, where he saw the ball through, like in the first session, like Naman mentioned. So hats off to KL for that innings, and obviously Pant as well making that contribution. Like Naman mentioned, I think there was a passage of time where he was basically losing it and talking to himself continuously, but got back and got 100 as well. So hats off to him over there. But for KL Rahul, I think I would say that's probably the best I've seen. I know I'm telling this repeatedly, but that was the value of that innings, and I've never seen KL bat like that, to be honest. He's someone who's probably playing a rash shot and getting out and probably takes it to his head. But that innings, I hope that's the start of something, basically being consistent in the test setup as he deserves to be.
For me,
Definitely, it was.
just like Hari mentioned, his favorite. I can't resist to mention mine. For me, this is right up there. But for me, the most favorite would probably remain that 100 at Centurion when he walked out at number 6. I mean, the situation of the game and the way he went on to get that 100. That 100 that KL Rahul scored in that series, and then in the very next game, the 100 that Markram ended up scoring. These are two of the most memorable lone contribution in an innings that I've had, and it's that was just magical. Like, walking, being the keeper out of the blue, walking in at number 6, and then stitching those partnerships and accelerating towards the end his way. That was a remarkable feat for me as well.
It's funny that you mentioned Makram, because these two like are compared continuously in social media. But yeah, I mean that knock in Centurion is surely up there. I mean, apologies for not mentioning that, but yeah, that is surely up there for sure.
No, but probably this innings, of 137 is that critic's choice sort of a knock, something that I think we as Indian fans will definitely hold close to our heart. Because finally, KL Rahul has been given that sort of clarity that, boss, you're going to be the opener. And him, stepping up and delivering when the team again most needed him to do was, a sight that I think a lot of us will cherish for the longest time. But in spite of India and probably Rishabh Pant and KL Rahul putting in that sort of a partnership, the most we could do is what? Set England a target of 371, which was always going to be an England win on cards, right? Unless something magical could happen. And again, the way England just orchestrated that run chase, it wasn't like rash batting. It just was Zak Crawley and Ben Duckett taking their time, just gauging the conditions and then taking risk, as per the situation kind of demanded it. So, Naman, your thoughts on how England just kind of, made that run chase look so easy? Ben Duckett hitting Bumrah all over the park. Just felt like a walk in the park at some point, did it?
Well, first of all, let's take our minds back 48 hours ago, day 4, session 3. All the calls when the wickets started falling. Should we declare? Should we just go for quick runs rather than playing out dots? I mean, I've had this debate with at least 5 people over the past 2 days that what should have been done. People, and it's to an extent, it's good to see people holding on to their firm opinions on both the sides. But the thing that probably like that's the beauty about Test cricket as well. Both the ways to look at this game, different ways to win a game as well. But the way I see it, the way what my take over here is that knowing this opposition, knowing their mindset when it comes to batting, and having seen what happened to our bowling attack in the first innings, no total was going to be sufficient as long as that batting lineup is going to chase it. And let's be very honest over here. By the end of day 3, we knew our bowling is not at its best. We knew that we probably have 1.75 wicket takers in our bowling lineup at this point of time. It was shown to us. And even then, if we feel that we can we can post a target of 350 for England to chase in 100 10 odd overs. That would have been a run rate of three. They chased down this total like anything, and we feel that things could have been different. Now the counter argument there is that we would have had more overs to bowl at the close of day four's play. We did get some overs in. We did not get the success. I mean, in my opinion, I don't really see us winning the game either way. Uh, Whether we would have declared maybe 10 overs earlier with 50 runs or 30 runs lesser, or whether what happened, that happened. So, again, coming back to the English batting, the moment the target was set, it was always a game for India to win. And the Indian win was the most unlikely scenario at that point of time because just the entire vibe, let's use that word over here, the entire vibe around the particular situation, and the way the two openers started out, they just they were managing a way to play Bumrah effortlessly, barring a few deliveries here and there. Even Siraj, like he bowled pretty good spell in the second. He bowled pretty good spells in the second innings there, but they managed their way to negotiate them. Be it Crawley, be it Duckett, they just put on a 100+ run partnership in a 350 or 370 odd chase. And once you do that, it really deflates the hell out of the bowling lineup over there itself. That these are just the openers, and the one of the batters is probably scored a lot more than he scored double his average, Crawley, in the second innings. So that itself becomes a demoralizing sight for any bowler. The ball was probably not sailing over the fence but going across the fence. I'm quoting the EA Sports commentary line over here. It was a very demoralizing sight for people like Bumrah and Siraj, and especially the dishes that were being served to the English batters by President Shardul in those phases of the game was. I'm trying to be as less critical as I can, but it was absurd. It was absurd the way in which they were just serving out pies, as our friend Bharat would like to call it. And there was just once Bumrah was out, was resting. Once Siraj was probably taken off, it was just too easy. Probably back then they were finding ways to get the runs. Then they were just deciding where are they going to hit. And of course, in this entire context, one crucial matchup that really played a difference was Duckett's reverse sweeps against Jadeja. He did not allow Jadeja to settle at all. He did not allow him to get through quick overs. He did not allow him to squeeze the flow of runs. And he did not uh, just allow the Indians to dictate terms. And the moment that happens, Jadeja goes out of the attack. The pacers are coming on, and they're not bowling the right lines, and they're going for runs all over the park. So it was just, I mean, exactly usually. It was a coaching manual stuff, and probably Alex Carey needs to read it 10 times a day to play the sweeps wherever he's playing because he probably needs it. He was too good with his reverse sweeps over there. So this is the entire context, and then things just unraveled the way they did. Even when we managed to get broke out early, but they just they just had the confidence, they just had the swagger, and honestly, the mindset that they have created, the opposition would always feel like, yeah, they are going for the chase. There's no way they are going for a draw. It was out of the equation, and I just feel that we fell flat in terms of our wicket taking abilities over there, and everyone just kept coming, chipped in, and they ended up chasing the way. And of course, Ollie Pope. I mean, he is remarkably improved. It was unreal. It was a sense of disbelief, to be very honest, the way he was batting. I it's like Hari mentioned, it's Ollie Pope 2.0, and if he really continues to play this way going ahead, then he would have really silenced some criticisms about him. Me being one of them, I'll be very honest about it.
Yeah, and I think Hari Prasad too would agree, that yeah, we'll not criticize Ollie Pope anymore. Mano Man's doing his thing. But do you have also any thoughts to add on how England just kind of orchestrated this run chase, and any takeaways you want to reflect a little bit on the Indian bowling too in this phase?
Frustrating to see the Indian bowling attack always relying on Bumrah to take those wickets. We've been seeing that from the Border Gavaskar Trophy, and unfortunately, it's continued to the series as well. I mean, you want a wicket, go back to Bumrah all the time. It's frustrating to see that. I mean, I was in one at one point. I was pretty much happy that Bumrah was picking those wickets in the first innings, ending up with a fifer. But at the same time, how long is this going to continue? I mean, there are other bowlers over there. Like Naman mentioned, we are literally playing with 1.75 wicket taking bowlers, and that's not acceptable at all at such a high voltage test series like the series that we're playing right now. So constantly going back to Bumrah all the time while where you want those wickets, I'd rather have Bumrah like four Bumrahs playing instead. If I had to go to that, I mean, it was really frustrating to see the Indian bowling in both the innings. I'll be very honest, and the trust in Shardul Thakur was another surprise as well. Being picked as the fourth bowler at number 8, I think he got bowled really less. And despite the fact that he did go for runs, but that was inevitable because you keep breaking his rhythm here and there and bringing him back whenever you probably are out of options and you just probably need to give him an over or something like that. You can't expect him to probably contain the run flow or something like that. He's first of all not known for such things, but despite that, I think getting Shardul to just bowl here and there was it just upsets his rhythm at the end of the day. And I think the second innings he did come back strong, although his wicket taking balls were nothing great. I think his wicket of Brook was going down the leg, and he just got lucky. Shardul, as we know, he's known to pick those wickets with those, I should say, garbage balls because they were. But I think even the first wicket that he took was an overpitched ball, if I'm not wrong, and the batter just got out. I mean, playing an error of a shot. But I mean, despite that, I think he should have been given a consistent run. I mean, when you have Prasid going for close to seven and over in both the innings, which is abysmal even for an ODI game. And seeing that happening in a test match was not acceptable. And you're constantly going back to him giving those overs, and he's not showing any improvements. Although he did pick those two wickets with much better balls, but it was inconsistent. I mean, he gets that good ball. I mean, I think I just saw a tweet somewhere where Prasid's over basically consists of three types of balls: two good balls, two average balls, and two bad balls. And that's spot on because that was exactly what was happening. And that's when you know that you probably need to turn to your other bowlers, and that was not done. And that was real. And even if that was done, it was going back to Bumrah again, and that's not the solution. I didn't see him as effective as he always is in the second innings, and I think it was shown as well. If I'm not wrong, he went wicketless. He went wicketless in the second innings, and that just shows that he's fatigued and he's being overbowled a lot. And I think same goes for Siraj as well. Like Naman said, he's been very unlucky in this Test series. But again that's got to do with the fact that he's probably being used over and over again. I think apart from Bumrah, I think even this series, I mean this game, Siraj was also overworked, and there were a lot of calls for bringing Bumrah and Siraj back to probably contain the run flow. And how many times will you get that done? I mean, you can't afford to keep giving these guys overs. They're fast bowlers at the end of the day, not just spinners who have short run ups. So getting them to bowl all the time when you want a wicket is not acceptable. And I think the other players need to step up and or probably make better calls coming the next game. So disappointed with the way India went about their bowling in both the innings.
Yeah, in all fairness,
And
hopefully
when,
this. Yeah, no, go on.
sorry, and when they did manage to create opportunities, the fielding let them down. We haven't discussed that at all so far. 1 hour, 17 minutes into it, that was an absolute. Okay, I'll hold on to my language over here. It was just too bad. It was just too bad. Those drops, and the ball somehow kept following Jaiswal, and he just had it is probably going to be his worst day on the field ever in his career. I don't see him having a worse day than this. He won't. He won't. It was just too unreal, and you miss one. Okay, it happens. One happens. You miss two, fine. ठीक है. Up, what's coming to me, I should focus on that. The moment you miss the third one is when your mind starts playing tricks with you. That's when a disbelief sets into you. That's when you are approaching the ball not with the mindset of, oh, I'm going to catch that, but with the mindset of, what if I miss that? And once that sets in for any fielder, anyone, it just, and not just that particular fielder, even for the others around. If you've seen a couple of catches go down, if the next one is coming your way, the amount of pressure that will build up on you, it's just too much to hold on to. And I am saying it because I can relate with it. Back in my playing days, when I would drop a catch, if the next ball would be coming towards me, yeah, it was a very bad feeling, and especially if it's your fellow bowlers whose catch you're dropping. So those opportunities hurt us big time. Be it in the first innings when we just ended up missing those. And then in the second, it was just a very different story. So that again demoralizes the bowlers. And like you said, Bumrah looking fatigued, it's not just about the physical fatigue that his body is taking, the mental fatigue that, dude, I'm running in throughout, I'm doing my 120%. Although he is a cutie and he goes on to say that, okay, everybody is doing their best, it happens in the game of cricket, people will drop catches, but inside his mind and heart, he is feeling the pain, which is probably not showing out. You just see it. I mean, he doesn't show it on his face because he covers it like this whenever a catch goes down, and then he utters whatever he wants to within himself, and then opens up his face, reveals it. But how long can he take that? Maybe if it's a physical fatigue, he can take rest and then get back. But if it's a mental fatigue, it wouldn't go away that easily, and that really affects probably how lethal you are being on the field. And probably if you just show one glimpse that your body language is not the usual, you're not running in as hard and fast as you are, even if there's a 10% drop, the opposition will pick that up. If they won't pick it up, some message will come from the dressing room that, hey, he's not in the right mindset, you can cash in. That confidence with which, if the batter is facing somebody like a Bumrah, because we've seen at times it is probably just the fact that it's him who is delivering, the batters are not playing their natural game. And once that element goes away from the batter's mind, they're just playing him like any other bowler. And we saw that in the second innings, that beyond a point, he was mentally and physically fatigued, and then the batters just started cashing in. Then it even came to a point that even when Bumrah is coming back for his third or fourth or fifth spell, it didn't really see, it seemed like, okay, just everybody's just having their round of everybody's just having their chance, just like KKR sends their openers. That's how it became for us.
And I think as Indian fans too, right, we just hope that this match sort of serves as a wake up call, because like we wouldn't want to see performances like this repeat. At least from the bowling side of things, and in the selections, we're more mindful about the kind of combination we want to go for. Hopefully, this match just gives them that sort of an indicator. But guys, almost as we reach the end of our discussion as well, I mean, what are some of the changes that you'd potentially like India to see? England, I mean, right now would be really catching in on this thrilling win. But just from an India POV, I'll probably start with Hari Prasad on this one, then Naman can take over. Like, do you want to see India bring in some changes for the second test, ASAP?
The bowling, yes, which I'll come to, but to the batting, we haven't talked about Sai Sudarshan yet. Did not impress a lot with the bat, but I do hope they stick with him. Just dropping a young player like him after like probably low scores, including a duck as well, does not set a good example. I mean, so I would say probably stick to Sai Sudarshan for the next game. I don't mind us not having Karun Nair next game as well. Probably, I mean, just because of the fact that he's batting out of position. So maybe get in Dhruv Jarel or someone like him. Uh, I said Dhruv Jurel because of the fact that if you see Pant, he's batting in at five. He scored twin centuries as well, which means he's been out on the field for long, comes back in and keeps wickets for as long as England bat. That is going to take a toll on his body. And I think there were instances where Pant was seeking a lot of help from the medical staff, and we cannot afford to have that going into the series because there are four more games to be played, and we need his batting more than anything else because twin centuries, I mean, there's no other explanation to that. So I would probably have a Dhruv Jural playing in at six, in place of Karun Nair. Don't mind NKR either over there, but due to the fact that, and yeah, I mean, don't mind NKR over there either, but I would probably edge towards Jurel playing at six. Jadeja stays, obviously, there's no question of dropping him. And obviously, the bowling needs a lot of change. I would probably rest one of Bumrah or Siraj, preferably Bumrah for the next test at Edgbaston. Have Siraj provide a debut to Arshdeep, uh, like that he deserves it. I feel he needs to play there, and maybe probably have an Akash Deep as well, if not a Deep or something like that. So these are the changes that I would suggest. Apart from that, I think the others probably stick on to their place. I just hope Sai does not get dropped after that score, but maybe the other changes were whatever I said. Yeah.
So my thoughts are also pretty much on the same line. If a batting change is going to be made in the top six, then I don't see Sai being dropped, because like in the preview we mentioned that I probably see Karun batting at three, because that's where he played in the domestic in the A games, and Sai was not even there. That turned out to be wrong, and the fact that they played Sai over there instead of Karun at number three, handed him a debut, means that they want him for the longer run. So he should definitely stick. If he doesn't play at number three, then it means that the think tank is just going haywire. That would be a very, very, very negative sign if they are dropping Sai in the next game. About Karun, ideally, even he should not be dropped, making his comeback in such a context in that kind of scenario. But then, if that move has to be taken, it has to be taken purely from a combination POV, either to have Jurel as somebody who can take the gloves, since Pant's workload really needs to be managed. He is more valuable to us as a batter than as a keeper at this point of time in this format. So either you do that, or you bring in Reddy at six for the funda that I mentioned previously. So either of, if a change is being made in the top six, it would be for the number six position, and otherwise, yeah, that's how things stand. With the bowling, it is again in line with what Hari mentioned. Uh, Probably rest Bumrah for this one, because Siraj has it in him that he can play three tests in a row and then probably take a rest in the fourth one and come back for the fifth. Maybe rest Bumrah for this one, bring him back for Lords, and you need to play Kuldeep in my opinion. Kuldeep, Siraj, Arshdeep, and Akashdeep. This would be my bottom four. So with Jadeja, Kuldeep, Akashdeep, Arshdeep, Siraj, that would be more of a combination that I would be looking at. See, that gives you wicket taking options. Kuldeep will look to go for wickets. He will get thrashed for runs, but he is more likely to pick up wickets and slightly lesser likely to go for runs that consistently, because he has the skill to deceive a batter more. So I would, no doubt that I would play him there. And then of course with Ashdeep, he would be the genuine swing bowler in the side. And when if the cloud conditions are in favor, he can pitch it up and he can extract that. And beyond that, he just offers that variety in the attack which we are currently lacking. With Akash, he is the consistent, he has the control, and he can be the one to just stick to the channel and make the batters induce errors in the batters and pick up the wickets in that sense. So this attack will be, I mean, we would definitely from 1.75 at least 3.5 wicket takers in the lineup if we go with this kind of a bowling combination. That's what my 11 would be. And again, knowing that it's Edgbaston, pretty batting friendly over there as well, you can expect the English batters to put on a pile of runs there. So you need players who can really outskill them and beat through their defenses, or just trick them in the air and get them out for cheap scores. So this is how I would see the attack going. And if it does, I mean, I'm very bullish that it will reap much better results if we go ahead with such an attack in the next game.
Yeah, I think we can expect a humdinger of a contest, right? Because this is again an India that's slightly beaten, but will be aiming to come back strong, and very fascinated with the kind of choices that both of you have mentioned. If the Indian think tank does end up going with that, to all our viewers, you heard it first here. So keeping our fingers crossed. Hopefully, we get a few good encounter, but India also kind of trying to level the series one, or otherwise it just deflates a lot of fans' hopes for the rest of the series to be exciting. It's a long series, so India will hope to kind of just level the series. But yeah, folks, on that note, let's probably draw curtains on our discussion. Thank you so much to all our viewers. First up, join us on this live and share all of your comments. It really enhanced the conversation. And to Naman and Hari Prasad, this is obviously not a goodbye. This is probably the start of our wonderful collaboration through the rest of this series as well. Hopefully, we will have more happy conversations where we're not doing scathing criticism of India for like 1 hour and then half an hour just reflecting on the things that work. But that's that's specialty of our show. We don't really mince our words. We just state the facts as it is. But that's all, folks. We will be doing lives like this after each of those test matches. So make sure to catch us live. And that's all. Take care. Good night.
Good night, folks. Bye.